Hi guys, we are here, we are queer, we are irritated by what we've seen on Twitter this morning, we are wearing a wig, because that's the bit, and we're sticking to it. So it's like 9 in the morning, and I had other stuff that I wanted to be doing right now, other than this, but I woke up and I saw some stuff on Twitter, and I thought, this seems like it's going to feed into some hysteria. I'm gonna give my 2 cents about maybe why this is not as big of a deal as it might be. So there's a Politico article going around on Twitter about the crisis text line, which is a service that I think you have to be in the US, but it might be worldwide, where if you're having like a mental health crisis, you can text them and a volunteer will get back to you and sort of like talk you down and get you help. And it's a very important service. It's very good. I've used it before. It's, a lot of the times the easiest, quickest, most affordable option if you're having a real bad time and you need it. So there's some controversy though, because in the Politico article, it talks about how there's actually a company called Loris, which is a for-profit company that is connected to the crisis text line service, and that uses some of the crisis text line's data. And people took this as, oh wow, my deepest, darkest moments that I shared with a counselor and with the presumption of privacy are being used, being monetized. And I wanted to kind of explain why I'm not actually that worried about this Loris thing. First of all, I don't want to say just assume that every corporation you interact with knows everything about you at all times, but like I do feel like that's kind of at the end of the day, this is not surprising. Just because it's something was not public knowledge or like publicly talked about does not mean that it's a bombshell. I don't think this is a bombshell. I think this is just kind of like, well, yeah, people who start corporations sometimes will go and start another corporation because they like doing that, But I also, while I understand the sense of like betrayal that people who either use the service or volunteer with the crisis text line service feel of like, okay, well, I was expecting this to be a private conversation. Does that mean you're selling my conversation? Is this a situation where it's like, oh, I've got like, I've got this person's trauma over here. Can I get 100? Can I hear a 110 sold to this guy in the corner? Like, no, it's a lot more, to my knowledge, like word associations and like, oh, when a person uses this particular term in a message, that means that their situation is escalating versus de-escalating. And the kind of the idea behind collecting, like analyzing these conversations is to sort of help people in other fields use some of those same like emotional intelligence and de-escalation techniques that people at the crisis text line are using. So what Loris does is I believe like create strategies for other like human resource departments at different companies to use in order to have more positive interactions with their customers, with their, internally among employees and stuff. And it definitely can seem very galling to think like, oh, this was my like mental health crisis. This was my gender crisis. This was my psychotic break. And you're using it to like teach someone how to be, a better human resources officer or whatever. That doesn't seem very fair to me. And I understand that. I really do. And I think there definitely is an issue of like legal consent versus informed consent, because the crisis text line does have your legal consent to share this information. But definitely they could do a lot better in terms of like communicating the usage of their data to their users. But ultimately, I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it's good that the suffering that we as mentally ill people go through is being studied and used in order to prevent some, shitty stuff from happening to other people. Like, maybe this is crazy, but if someone can use the conversation that I had with a crisis text line volunteer to learn how to better help someone who is feeling what I was feeling at that time, I don't think that's a bad thing. And even if it's something that's like much lower stakes, like let's say I work at, I don't know, a financial company and I've got some extremely angry person on the phone. And if I can use skills that came from a crisis counselor to, help me de-escalate a situation, like, sure, it's not saving a kid's life, but it's making someone's day a little bit better. It's making me have an easier time at work. Like, I don't really think that, oh, Jesus. Okay, we have a guest. Hopefully she's gonna be calm. I kind of doubt it, but, yeah. But the other kind of issue that I have is when it comes to like the volunteers at the crisis center, the callers to the crisis center, it's not about your feelings. It's not about your feelings, about how you're like, it's about getting a person through a difficult moment. It's not about like, was there a medical student in the room watching your humiliating procedure? I don't know. Was there? Who cares? Did they learn something? I don't know. Maybe this is just me as someone who's been mentally ill for a long time. I'm like, how old am I? 28. I don't care. And yes, for some people who are maybe younger and less jaded, maybe their emotional moments maybe that is sacred to them, and maybe they really don't want anyone learning from it. Maybe they don't trust that information to a corporation. But it's also like, I genuinely I have trouble believing that like Loris/Crisis Text Line collectively is going to do anything worse with my data than what Facebook is already doing without my knowledge and consent. And I think it's kind of a little bit backwards to be like that afraid of AI in the year of our Lord 2021. Like honestly, the gas station across the street probably has all my personal information. Petco probably knows my social security number. Like, at a certain point, you just gotta assume this shit. If you're interacting in normal society, like, you can't protect yourself from the watchful eye of Big Brother. It's just not gonna happen. And you could be outraged about it, or you can get over yourself. You know what? I wasn't gonna edit this, but I think maybe I have to. I did have a couple like actual criticisms, suggestions, other than just kind of like vague bickering. My main concern with the article was not actually like the tone of it or the conclusions of it, because I thought it was a pretty good article. Like, I thought it was balanced. I thought it used its sources fairly well. I thought some of the quotes from volunteers that were used were hilariously unhelpful. There was a quote from someone who very clearly had not thought about this too deeply before they were asked the question, that was just like, mental health and human resources? That sounds ridiculous. Wow. And it's like, why'd your editor let you put that in there? That was not necessary. No substance. Does not, it's like if someone interviewed me and they only aired the part where I was saying, sorry, what was that? I couldn't hear your question. Not helpful. Also not helpful was the tone of the thread made by the crisis text line social media people in response to the article, which is very much like, oh, a recent article cherry-picked the data in order to say, and it's like, no, did they cherry-pick the data though? Did they really? Because I don't think they did. I think you just didn't like the response the article got, but I don't think the article was inaccurate. And the pissy tone of the thread did kind of rub me the wrong way. It felt very defensive, and it's like, if y'all aren't doing anything wrong, don't act like you're doing something wrong. If your partner company has no sketchy practices, don't come at this like you're defending your sketchy practices. And to be fair, I don't think the practices are sketchy. It is like they do they make it so your name's not attached to the data, which I know is like kind of like, you know, false assurances that it's not going to get back to you. And people do worry like, oh, I don't want to be on a government watch list. Like, is the world gonna know that I use the service? You know what? Man, the gas station across the street probably knows my social security number. You know, Petco probably has my entire medical history. And God only knows what Facebook is doing with, you know, every word I've said in the privacy of my own home while I happen to have my phone on nearby. So I have trouble believing that the major consequences from this are going to be in the sphere of online privacy. I think the major consequences of this are going to be a degradation in the trust of an important service. It did bother me specifically today because something else that was trending on Twitter was the death of Cheslie Kryst, who was a former Miss USA and TV correspondent, and she died by suicide, I believe, yesterday or this morning. And every time a famous person kills himself, there is a spike in mental health problems, and there's always copycats, and it just really makes me sad to think that that's going to be happening on a day that people are going to have their trust in one of the few free resources available to them degraded. And so I just wanted to wrap this up by saying, like, kids, if you are in crisis, it is better to have Facebook, you know, reading your messages over your shoulder and to still be alive. You know, it is better to be embarrassed and still be alive. Like, it is better to be able to look back at your life and cringe because you're alive. And like, I know it's very scary when you're young, but I just want to assure most young people that if an adult, okay, I'm running out of storage, so I'm going to finish this up really, really quick. Kids, if you go to an adult for help, they are going to be honored and grateful that you came to them for help. It does not matter whether it is your mom or your ex's mom or your TA or your boss. Like, if you are having a bad time, like, do not worry about, oh my God, they're going to think less of me. No, they're going to be glad that you're still here. So I just really want to tell people it does get better, and it does get easier, and they make medications for most things now, and people do understand and would like for you to be okay. So sending love to everybody today who is affected by any of the shit they're seeing on Twitter. I don't know you probably, but I love you, and I would like for you to stay on this planet. I think you are a very cool person. I think you are unique and special, and I think you will get through this and do amazing. And the only way you're going to find out how amazing you're going to be is if you are here to see it. So that's it. Have a great day, everyone. I'm going to go have another cup of coffee and take a shower and get this wig off and start my day for real. So goodbye, everyone. See ya.